A secret £4 million offshore leak has just exploded into British politics, and at the centre of it is none other than Labour leader Keir Starmer. The revelation has rocked Westminster, stunned Labour supporters, and triggered calls for immediate resignation. What began as a quiet whisper behind closed doors has now turned into a political firestorm that threatens to burn down the leadership of the opposition. The first signs of trouble came late at night when an anonymous digital whistleblower posted files online. These documents, now under intense scrutiny by media outlets, claim that £4 million was quietly moved into offshore accounts linked to figures closely tied to Keir Starmer's campaign advisory group. The documents are part of what insiders are now calling the Westminster Offshore Files, a series of leaked financial records that appear to show complex financial movements stretching back over 5 years. The leak was initially picked up by independent investigators before being validated by a major UK financial watchdog. According to early analysis, the accounts in question are based in jurisdictions known for secrecy, including the British Virgin Islands and Jersey. What shocked many wasn't just the offshore accounts, but the implication that someone within Labour's top ranks had direct knowledge of the transfers. Even more disturbing, some of the documents named charitable and political donor fronts used as channels. As the story began to unfold, journalists scrambled to verify the names, and one stood out: Keir Starmer. While the Labour leader himself hasn't been directly tied to holding the funds, the leak alleges that 2 of his senior strategists were either involved or aware of the transfers. That detail alone was enough to explode across social media. Within hours, news channels lit up the airwaves. Breaking: Starmer's leadership in Jeopardy became a trending headline across every major platform. Political talk shows and radio lines were flooded with calls, many from longtime Labour supporters asking the same question: is this the end of Starmer? In just a few hours, what began as a suspicious leak online had turned into a full-blown political scandal. As more journalists got hold of the documents, the connections deepened. Some files showed signatures that matched those used in Labour's internal fundraising efforts. Others hinted at possible tax avoidance by entities that had donated to the party under Starmer's leadership. The public response was instant and fierce. Political forums, social platforms, and even international outlets like Reuters and Al Jazeera began covering the story. With pressure growing and no official statement released in the first few hours, many believed silence would only make things worse. What makes this leak different from past financial controversies is its timing. With the UK heading toward a possible general election in the next year, Labour had been rising in the polls. Starmer's image as a clean and irrational alternative to conservative instability had started to gain traction. But now, that very image is under threat. Reporters gathered outside Labour HQ by dawn, demanding answers. Anonymous sources from inside the party described the mood as panic mode. One insider revealed, phones are ringing non-stop. Everyone wants to know who knew what, and when. Starmer isn't answering direct questions yet, not even internally. It's still unclear how much truth the documents hold, but the damage has already begun. Trust is slipping. The media is relentless. And the opposition smells blood in the water. If these leaks hold up under investigation, the fallout won't just end Starmer's leadership, it could fracture Labour right before its strongest election. Push in years, *, the £4 million didn't just vanish, it moved silently through a shadowy financial maze. At the heart of this growing scandal is a trail of offshore accounts, shell companies, and donor networks stretching beyond UK borders. Now, financial experts are connecting the dots, and the picture forming is deeply troubling for Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. The leaked files suggest the money didn't move all at once. It began as a series of smaller transfers, each one seemingly legal on the surface. But when layered together, the pattern revealed a strategy designed to keep the money out of reach from tax authorities and public scrutiny. This is where the story takes a darker turn. Experts reviewing the data noticed that the transfers went through a set of offshore entities registered in known tax havens, like the Cayman Islands, Jersey, and the British Virgin Islands. These places are often used to hide wealth from government oversight due to their strict privacy laws and low taxation. In this case, those entities appear to have acted as holding zones, allowing the funds to be moved again and again without Raising red flags. One of the companies involved is named Clearwave Global Trust, an entity with no real employees and no actual office, just a registered address shared by dozens of similar shell firms. According to leaked invoices and financial logs, Clearwave allegedly received multiple wire transfers from a UK-based donor firm that had previously made large contributions to Labour's 2020 leadership campaign. What's worse, several emails attached to the leak show internal discussions between Clearwave's legal team and unnamed political contacts in the UK, mentioning the need to reclassify funds as consulting payments. Investigative journalists have now traced at least 3 other shell firms with similar patterns. Some of them list directors who also appear in official records tied to Labour-affiliated think tanks and PAC-style donor groups. This growing web of connections is no coincidence. It suggests a deliberate effort to disguise financial flows and possibly avoid campaign finance rules. Labour Party insiders, under anonymity, admitted that while donor vetting exists, offshore tracing is almost impossible without government audits. "We thought these donors were clean," one party finance staffer said. "We never saw anything illegal, but we also didn't ask the hard questions. And now it's blowing up in our faces." The question now being asked in Parliament and across the media is simple: did Keir Starmer know? Thus far, there's no document that proves he personally moved or benefited from the money. But critics argue that leadership requires responsibility, and his silence speaks volumes. Multiple MPs, both inside and outside Labour, are calling for an independent inquiry into party finances, especially donations linked to offshore sources. In past years, politicians caught in similar financial webs have stepped down, even when no direct wrongdoing could be proven. The public doesn't just care about legality, they care about trust. The smell of offshore activity, even if technically legal, is enough to sour public confidence, especially when it involves political leaders who've built their careers on promises of transparency. Adding more fuel to the fire is the fact that some of these offshore-linked donors later received influence within Labour's policymaking groups. While not illegal, it's a major ethical red flag. Were these donations really investments for political access? And if so, what were the donors promised in return? Meanwhile, rival political parties are sharpening their attacks. Conservative MPs, still reeling from their own scandals, see this as a rare opportunity. Starmer said he was different, one Tory MP said in Parliament. But now we see, it's the same old dirty game. Just a new player. The Labour Party is now scrambling to release its own internal audit, trying to show it's taking the issue seriously. But that may not be enough. The public wants answers. Investigators want bank records. And Starmer, so far, has remained tight-lipped. This offshore money trail becomes clearer. It's no longer just about shady finances. It's about trust, leadership, and whether the Labour Party is truly prepared to lead cleanly. The pressure was overwhelming. Cameras flashed, microphones reached forward, and the nation waited. Would Keir Starmer come clean, deny everything, or shift the blame? After 48 hours of growing silence, the Labour leader finally stepped into the spotlight. But what he said, and what he didn't, only raised more questions. When Keir Starmer finally broke his silence, the setting was carefully chosen, a plain press room with no party banners behind him. His face was tight, his voice firm, and his words measured. He began by calling the reports deeply concerning and said he had no knowledge of any illegal activity related to offshore accounts. He firmly denied any wrongdoing on his part. But what was missing from his speech hit harder than the words he used. He did not name the donors. He did not explain why senior Labour staffers linked to the alleged transactions remained employed. And he did not address the growing evidence showing clear ties between party fund movements and offshore destinations. The absence of those answers only intensified the storm. Starmer stated, "I have always followed the rules, and I stand by my record of integrity." But critics say that statement feels like a political shield rather than a sincere explanation. Even inside the Labour Party, MPs are now voicing doubts. One MP, speaking off the record, admitted, "We needed leadership. What we got was a lawyer's defense." The public reaction to Starmer's statement was swift. On social media, hashtags like #StarmerScandal, #LabourLeak, and #WhereIsTheTruth started trending within the hour. Commentators on news networks questioned whether his words were enough to calm the political storm. It's not just about whether he knew, one political analyst said. It's about whether he should have known. And if he didn't, why not? Adding to the pressure, investigative reporters have begun uncovering more ties between Labour's inner circle and offshore-related donor firms. One document, revealed just hours after Starmer's press conference, shows a meeting in 2021 between a known offshore facilitator and a senior Labour campaign advisor. Though the meeting was described as a general finance discussion, the timing has raised eyebrows. In the days following Starmer's response, he avoided detailed interviews, choosing instead to appear at low-key events and repeat his official line, "I have nothing to hide." But with each new revelation, that line feels thinner and more rehearsed. And while he has launched an internal review of party donations, critics argue this is too little, too late. The demand is for an external, independent investigation, something Starmer has yet to agree to. Some supporters hoped his statement would put the matter to rest. Instead, it may have made things worse. By not addressing specific questions, Starmer left a vacuum, and in politics, a vacuum is quickly filled by doubt, speculation, and opposition attack. Meanwhile, Labour's shadow cabinet is facing fractures. Several high-ranking officials are reportedly frustrated by Starmer's handling of the crisis. One senior aide has already resigned quietly. Another threatened to speak publicly unless the party takes real action. Rumors of a leadership challenge are growing behind closed doors. Starmer's personal brand, carefully built on integrity, legal fairness, and calm leadership, is now under threat. For a man who once promised to clean up Labour's image after the Corbyn era, this offshore scandal could undo years of political effort in a matter of days. His supporters say he's being targeted unfairly. His critics say he's avoiding accountability. But for millions watching, the most important thing is simple: can they still trust him? As Parliament prepares for its next session, calls are growing louder for a full investigation, for suspensions, and yes, even for resignation. Keir Starmer may not have written the check, but in the court of public opinion, he may already be paying the price. The damage wasn't just external, it tore through the heart of the Labour Party. As Keir Starmer struggled to control the narrative, internal chaos erupted. Silent whispers turned into shouting matches. Trusted allies grew distant. And within days, the party that had hoped to lead Britain was suddenly fighting itself. The moment Starmer's press statement ended, a new storm began, this time inside Labour HQ. Phones didn't stop ringing. Emails flooded in from local branches demanding answers. MPs, once united behind the leader, started questioning if he could survive this blow. What was once seen as a well-organized political machine began to split down the middle. Senior members of the party's National Executive Committee, NEC, reportedly held emergency calls late into the night. Sources close to those calls say Starmer was urged to suspend key staff members linked to the financial scandal. But according to insiders, he refused, at least at first. That decision has created rifts. A former cabinet member said anonymously, "We've been told to stand by him. But we weren't told the truth." Some MPs openly broke ranks. A handful went on record with local media demanding transparency, while others hinted that a leadership vote may be necessary if the situation worsens. Party veterans, who had once believed Starmer would lead Labour into a stable era, are now privately describing him as a liability heading into the next general election. Meanwhile, Labour's youth wing and university societies, long considered the party's energetic base, have begun organizing online petitions and open letters. Their demands are loud and clear. They want a full list of donors, external audits of campaign finances, and accountability at the top. "If Starmer doesn't act, we walk," one group posted on X. The situation has become so unstable that several prominent Labour MPs have reportedly begun positioning themselves for a leadership challenge. Names like Angela Rayner, Wes Streeting, and even Andy Burnham have started appearing in political chatter, not officially, but through carefully leaked interviews, public statements, and social media moves. Everyone senses an opening. No one wants to say it aloud. But the question echoes across Westminster: who will take his place? The cracks inside the party aren't just ideological. They're strategic. Some want to ride out the scandal, hoping it fades before the next election. Others argue that the only way to survive is to cut off the rot now, remove Starmer, apologize, and rebuild. But with the public watching every move, there's no room for missteps. The Tories have seized the moment. Conservative leaders are using this scandal to paint Labour as no different from themselves, a party just as entangled in shady money and broken promises. Their talking points are spreading fast. They promised change. Instead, they're hiding secrets. It's a narrative that hits deep, and it's sticking. Labour staffers are under immense pressure. Internal memos leaked to the press reveal that local campaign teams have been told to avoid engaging with any questions about offshore funding. Some party volunteers have even quit, refusing to campaign until the truth is known. Councillors in key areas like Manchester, Birmingham, and Liverpool are threatening to defect to independent platforms if Starmer doesn't step down, and all of this is happening while Parliament is still in session. Every time Starmer walks into the Commons, he's met with smirks, taunts, and uncomfortable silence from his own backbenches. The once rising leader, who promised a return to seriousness and ethics in British politics, now stands in the eye of a hurricane. Even Labour's communications team is struggling to respond. Media appearances have been cut down. Journalists report cancelled interviews, ghosted press calls, and no direct access to senior figures. That silence speaks louder than words. It suggests panic and lack of direction. From the outside, the Labour Party looks like a crumbling structure. From the inside, it's worse. Trust is broken. Confidence is slipping. And unless something changes fast, the very party that was poised to challenge for power may collapse before the election ever arrives. The chaos is no longer hypothetical. It's real. And it's happening now.